Hello, everyone. Welcome to Canadian music in the 80s and 90s and more. The A part making it Canadian. If you like what you're seeing, please subscribe and watch more videos. I'm very happy to be joined by probably, again, one of the artists I was thinking of when I started this thing. Um, Thanks for joining me, Lee Aaron. I can't believe you're here.
Here I am. So there you go. I can't believe I'm talking to somebody who lives in PEI. I never do interviews with people there, and I miss that place. It's just I have such fond memories of playing there in the past.
Did you get
So,
over here much when you were touring back in the old days, or?
yeah, there was, I can't off the top of my head remember the name of the venue, but a very large um, theater style club venue that we used to consistently play
Might have been
in
Myron's, maybe?
Byron's, did you
My
say?
Myron's, I think. I know that
Byron's.
that used to be a pretty big place here in the old days. It's something else now, but
I don't know, toss out a couple of other names for me, and then I might be able to
I've been
remember.
here long enough. But I've only
But
lived here
anyway,
for about
um,
4 years.
and yeah, just I, PEI just seems like it's real. Like East Coast people are wonderful enough
Yeah,
in that they're just salt of the earth and beautiful people, and I have a lot of relatives out there as well. And then PEI is even like more so like it's this little insular kind of community that they
yeah,
love rock and roll, and they're just um, you know give you the shirt off their back kind of people. I just had such great memories of playing there.
absolutely. It's a great music scene here as well. Um, Speaking of music, you've got some new music coming out, and I'm really excited to talk about it because one of the things I really like to do on this channel is I really like to push the fact that while I'm interviewing legendary artists, they're still making music today, as you are, and you still do make music on a regular basis. And I find your newer music is just as good as anything you've ever done, if not better. Um,
Thank you.
yeah,
Thank
like
you.
I really like to push that because I wish more people would just give your new stuff a chance. Because I mean, your writing has definitely gotten better as time goes on, and I think that shows.
Well, and I feel the same way. But it is it's an awkward, weird thing because it's the world is a culture that worships youth, right? And
Right.
I know that I was talking to not my manager, but my booking agent on the line because I've put out obviously since 2016 after sort of coming back after my little motherhood hiatus there. I've
Mhm.
put out 7 new albums, and every time I talk to my agent, he goes, "Oh, if you're lucky, maybe if you're lucky, one of the songs will become a big hit." And I'm like, you know what? I'm not even servicing radio, and I'll tell you why. Because they won't play it. And like,
Mhm.
if they're not going to play the new Brian Adams on the radio, they're definitely not going to play the new Lee Aaron. If new Bruce Springsteen can't get played on the radio,
Yeah,
they're not going to play the new Lee Aaron. And I mean, at least I'm a realist, but and I wish it wasn't like that
me
because
too.
you're right. I'm not the only artist that's continuing to record and to make quality music. Um, but I feel grateful in that, I try to look at the positive sides that with the advent of social media and digital technology,
Mhm.
not only can I make albums for a lot less money than I used to, but I can also, sort of self market them through my socials and things like that. And I'm so blessed. Like I've got an amazing core fan base of people in Canada and abroad that will consistently buy my CDs and my vinyl, like physical product,
Mhm.
um, consistently go to Spotify and Apple Music and stream it. And so it's sort of like a little the Lee Aaron Industries, like this little thing that
Yeah.
consistently keeps going. And I'm able to make enough money off every album and touring to make another album. So what else do I have to spend my money on? I'm not the kind of person that cares about having like a Lamborghini or a fancy
Right.
rock star car. I'd rather make a new record. That's me. So, you know,
I'm
I'm the
glad.
minivan queen.
That's awesome.
As
No, I'm
down to
glad.
earth as it gets, like when you got kids and stuff. So anyway,
I'm glad to hear it because I just remember back in the 80s how exciting it was when your favorite artist came out with a new album or something new. And I still feel that way today. Like, I just I talked to Honeymoon Suite recently, or Derry from Honeymoon Suite, and he said it's what we do, like and it's obviously that way with you. It's what you do, like it's what you want to do, it's what you've been doing, and you're not going to stop mm, until you're physically not capable to do it, I guess. But
or until it stops becoming fun, right? Like,
right.
right now it's just still so much fun. And I have an amazing band. I'm working with Sean Kelly,
Hmm.
um, guitarist from Toronto, plays used to play with Nelly. He plays occasionally with Coney Hatch and Alan Frew, but I think his main band is this one, and we co-write together. Dave Reimer from Vancouver is been in the band almost 20 years. And my husband John Cody, and I'm working with such a wonderful, wonderful group of guys. Not only are they brilliant musicians and true creative forces in their own right, they're lovely people. It's funny, I was having a talk with my manager last night and he's going, Dave and Sean are just the nicest guys. I'm like, yeah, I picked them. I picked him. Like, you're gonna be in my band because I'm tired of dealing with temperamental weirdos, and
Yeah.
yeah, you just get to an age and stage in your life where you want to work with some people that feel like family, right? So
And
yeah,
after being in the business as long as you have, you know what you're looking for in terms of bandmates and who to work with.
100%. Yes,
So anyway, I want to pull up a picture if you don't mind.
sure. Oh,
Um, and maybe you could tell me about it. Yes, hopefully you can see this.
that's the album cover.
That's the album cover, yes.
Yeah.
So I've heard the new song, Tattoo. It's fantastic. I love it. I can't wait to hear the rest of it. Has it officially been released yet? If I'm not,
No,
or
no, April. So we have two singles out. One is called Tattoo. The other's called We Did a Cover of Hearts, Even It Up.
yeah.
And the album officially drops on April 26th weekend. So not this weekend, next weekend. And yeah, I'm just looking. Yeah. And yeah. So uh that is the cover. And is the next question going to be, so do you really have any tattoos? That's been a common one I've gotten.
Um, yeah, I guess that is a good question. I know they can do a lot with pictures these days. So do you actually?
See, it's bare.
That's
So
awesome.
I feel like I'm far more of a rebel these days by not getting any tattoos.
Yeah.
So the answer would be no. Yeah. So
So, what brought the album about? Like, what was the process like of putting this album together? Was it recorded? Like, I always like to ask how it was recorded because I know there's so many modern ways to record nowadays. But I remember the old days, a lot of people used to record, everyone was together in the studio and live off the floor sometimes. But was it recorded anything like that, or was it all like,
sending files.
yeah,
Okay, so what I'm a real believer in being together in a room
hmm,
and recording live off the floor. I just want to put that out there. Elevate was done that way.
right,
Radio On was done that way. All of my favorite albums have been done that way. During COVID, we were kind of forced to
yeah,
um, upgrade our home studios to world class level, and so that we could do a lot of the overdubbing tracks at home because the world was literally shutting down the week we were recording Radio On.
oh,
So
okay,
Sean Kelly flew back a day early because his wife was back in Toronto and his son had gotten sick and they didn't. COVID was so new and so scary.
yeah,
He was kind of freaking out. He's like, I gotta go home. I have a sick child, and I'm like, go, let's change your flight now. And it was, But anyway, to make a long story short, so we ended up getting really good at home recording. Um, and when we discussed doing this album, um, we I wanted to go into a studio and record the bed tracks live off the floor.
Yeah.
We had some scheduling sort of issues because we are a bi-coastal band. The three of us live on the West Coast. Sean lives back in Toronto,
Okay.
and and I think it was Sean that pushed the idea forward. He just said, we all work together so well. We know each other's playing so well now. What if I cut a track to a click and then you give it to John and John records without the click to my guitar? He said, I
Mhm.
feel like we will be able to pull this off. I wasn't on board with the idea initially, um, but we would have had to push back the start date of this album quite a bit. And so we did do it that way by sending files back and forth.
Right.
Um, uh, and ironically, I think it turned out really, really well because we know each other's style of playing so well.
Right.
John was able to follow along quite well to what Sean was doing after I put a scratch vocal down on it, and I've gotten, believe it or not, like every album has some drum editing. It's just
Yeah.
a reality, because you want all your musicians to lock up well, right?
Sure.
However, I am not a believer in quantization and locking things to the grid.
Right.
Um, as a producer, that's not my thing. But yeah, I got really good at drum editing, and by the time I was done, I was just like, yeah, this totally sounds like we played together in the same room. And so the nice news about that was we were able to make this album in a very cost-effective way and a very organic way, and then we passed it along. I'm a big believer in that. After all the tracks are recorded, all the components, musical components that I'm hearing are there. I'm happy to give it to a mixer that I trust because by that point, I need a set of fresh ears on this material. Does that make sense?
Right. Yeah, for
We
sure.
passed it along to Frank Greiner in Toronto, and he's an amazing mixer. I was amazed at how good it made it sound. So, of course, we went back and forth on some things, but yeah, I'm pretty happy with the way it all turned out.
It sounds great. The first single, well, the first two singles sound great. I just heard the second one today. Um, but I've been listening to Tattoo for a while. Um, it really does sound great. It definitely, I don't know how to put it. It does sound like something you would do for sure. Um, and I love the way it sounds. So what are your plans? I know you mentioned you have some gigs coming up. You're going to be doing some touring, or are you doing festivals, or just like,
Oh, yeah, I mean, I got a combination of festivals, casinos, some fairs, some things coming up like that this
Mhm.
summer. Um, and yeah, we head out in 2 weeks. We're coming to the East Coast and playing Moncton and Halifax, which are a couple showcase dates. We'll be playing. You'll be hearing a little teaser from the new album.
Okay.
Of course, all the hits as well. You know, you can't undervalue nostalgia, right?
Definitely
So,
not. No.
um, and then we head back out in May to Ontario. June we're in Manitoba. July we are we're back in the East Coast. We're in Miramichi actually,
Okay.
running a festival out there, and in Alberta, and I think that's Alberta. You know what? I got my calendar right here. I'll let you know. We
Awesome.
are, I think we're in Thunder Bay, Alberta. Nope, that's August. Sorry, I'm wrong. We are I'm in Quebec City at the FEQ opening up for Motley Crue in June.
Awesome.
Yeah, and then we are again in Alberta and in Miramichi. That is New Brunswick, correct? Yes.
Yep.
And August we are back in Alberta and Thunder Bay at a fair. Um, September, sorry. So we
That's okay.
are all over the place actually. September we're back in Alberta to play fundraiser for a mental health organization called Thumbs Up. It's called Peace in the Park. Doing that. October we're back in Vancouver. We're doing a big cancer benefit.
Okay.
November we're in Switzerland. So, yeah.
Wow, no lack of things to do this summer by the sounds of it. If you don't mind, I stole a picture off your Facebook page because I wanted to talk
Sure.
about this. Um, you were
Aw.
recently inducted into Canada's Walk of Fame. Now, I mean, obviously that's a great thrill, I would imagine, but can you tell me what the night was like? Because I've seen some clips and stuff on YouTube of like some of the performances from that night. You were inducted with a amazing group of artists. And what was it like to be able to be with all those people on one night or something like that?
The thing is, I see a lot of the artists that we were inducted with on a fairly regular basis because we play a lot of the same circuit. We play a lot of the same festivals. We play a lot of the same
Mhm.
casinos. And so, and again, I've said this before, it's kind of like rock and roll family night. Like
Right.
the reality is, back in the 80s, I think we were obviously all younger, and there was a lot more of a competitive element to, like, oh, that band, why am I opening up for that band? Or we should be getting a longer set, or like, I don't know, just, or like, they've given us less lights than that other band, or whatever. There was
Yeah.
a lot more of a competitive kind of thing going on,
Mhm.
because we were all young and all striving so hard. But here we find ourselves, 40 years later, we all have survived to this point
Yeah.
through the rock and roll mire. you know
Yeah.
we've all cut our teeth touring across Canada, and Canada is not an easy country to tour. It's
Especially in the winter,
cold
I
in the
bet.
winter,
Yeah.
and we all cut our teeth playing those little bars that were attached to hotels, and we've all lived through relationship breakups and divorces and child rearing and deaths in our family. And there's a lot of common experiences besides music that I think really bring it all to this sort of level playing field. So now when we see each other, like, I run into Bill Henderson from Chilliwack, and even though he's 20 years older than me, I'm like, Bill, big hug. Like,
Yeah.
I just love, and we watch each other and we're like, we just respect each other's musicianship so much. And the fact that we are the legendary Canadian bands, and or we have evolved into that. Does that make sense? And
Yeah.
so there's just such a great degree of camaraderie and love and respect for each other. And so that event was just like running into old friends. It was really a beautiful thing.
No, it looked like quite an evening, and I just think it's great to see some of those artists like yourself and everybody else that was on there getting, it's nice to see them get recognition after, being around as long as they have and really working, a country like Canada and, making a good
Well,
living out of it.
and crafting music that formed the fabric of
Yeah.
the inception of the Canadian rock years,
Yeah.
like those April Wine songs, those Trooper songs, those Prism songs,
Yeah.
you know, Carol Pope, Carol Pope was out there flaunting her sexuality, doing her whole thing in an era when it was dangerous to do so.
Yeah.
Like, man, respect, man, for that lady. Like, you know, um, she totally deserves the recognition. Um, so it was about, you know, the music that created the landscape of Canadian rock and roll, but it was also about artists that were, paving the way. And
Yeah.
as Jeannie Becker said for me, she said, like, you like broke a glass ceiling for women in rock to come forward and really do this in Canada. Because when I started out doing hard rock in Canada, there were there was literally a handful of us around the world that were
Right.
doing it. Of us women, there was hardly anyone, you know?
It's true. Yeah, I mean, not just in Canada, just period. I mean, there wasn't a lot of women doing hard rock and stuff like that. And you were not just the fact that you were Canadian, but I mean, period. Like like you said, you might have been, I mean, I guess the Runaways were kind of a groundbreaking band when it came to that kind of thing. And, Joan Jett and Lita Ford kind of broke off and got into that too. But in Canada,
But
it
they
was,
weren't Canadian, right? So
yeah,
it's a thing, right?
yeah,
There were really not really any Canadian role models for me. Heart would have been the like we
yeah,
Canadians love to embrace Heart as Canadian, even though they were from Seattle. They spent so much time in Vancouver, so we love to kind of take a little bit of ownership with them. But you know, I think of anyone, they were the most influential female rockers for me.
sure. Do you mind if I go back and ask you where your musical roots came from? Like where at what age were you when you were like just totally hooked on music and were like, I gotta do more than just listen to music. I gotta be in it.
Um, well, yeah, so that started very early for me.
Hmm.
Um, my mother was involved in church choirs my whole life,
Okay.
and she sang beautifully. Different kind of voice to me, very almost like operatic soprano, beautiful.
Mm.
And she sang around the house a lot. And she, when she was singing, I was like, this is going to be a good day. Mom's really happy. She's singing, right?
Right.
And so I associated singing with joy. And I started singing really young, like when I was about 5 years old. And if there was an opportunity at school to be involved in a musical or in any kind of theater production, I was just like very attracted to that. I don't know why, I just was. And so I was involved in theater and musical theater all throughout school. And then I was involved in a musical theater production when I was 15 years old in high school. And and I was getting into rock and roll at
Hmm.
that point in time because my father had arrived home with a trunk full of albums from the college where he worked. They had decided to change the college radio station decided to change their vinyl library to 8 track. Bad decision, but don't laugh. I know they're
No.
like, this is the modern way, so we're gonna go switch over to 8 track. And and they were getting rid of all this vinyl. He's like, can I, my daughter loves music. Can I take that home? And he came home and he had this trunk full of vinyl. And that's where I discovered all of these artists that I hadn't really been able to dig deep into, like Fleetwood Mac, Elton John, the Strawbs. What else? There was Supertramp and Styx and Fleetwood Mac and Heart and the Runaways and Steely Dan, like David Bowie, Alice Cooper. Like it was just all those 70s artists, right? And so I was getting into rock and roll and I was loved Heart. And then a bass player from a local band saw me in this musical theater production and said, do you want to audition for our rock band? And I was just like, well, that could be fun. I've never sang that kind of music before. So I learned a couple of Heart tunes and I auditioned with them. And they were like, she's got a good voice. So suddenly I was in a rock band at 15 and that band was, and then it started becoming more of a reality of like, I like this. And I think I was pushed by the guys in the band at that time to probably sing heavier stuff than I might have normally picked on my own because
Right.
women didn't really do that kind of music, and that's what they wanted to do. So and
Yeah.
I've said this many times before. Led Zeppelin and Heart Ann Wilson and Robert Plant became my greatest vocal teachers, right? Like I just sang that material over and over and over and over again. So.
And we know how big of a fan Hart is of Led Zeppelin too, so it kind of works out.
Well, you hear it. You hear the threads right through their music for sure.
Awesome. But I guess where it probably really, I'm gonna pull up another picture. I guess where it really, I guess, started for you was when I first heard of you was obviously this record right here.
Metal Queen.
Yeah,
Yep.
I guess that's where I would have heard of you as a teenager. That would have been the big hit back then. And And I get what that was that what really got the ball rolling in terms of having a career?
Well, that my sophomore album, Metal Queen, changed um, a lot of things for me. Like it was so strong image wise. Obviously, look at it.
Yeah.
Um, so strong image wise. It was the inception of Much Music and MTV that was just
Hmm.
starting up, and I was all over the Power Hour as
Yeah.
well as regular rotation. And you know, being at the beginning of the music video era,
Yeah.
I think really helped, right? Because that didn't exist on my first record.
Right.
Being at the beginning of the music video era um, was very, very helpful. And so it was not only the music, but it was like this persona that was put out there as well.
Yeah.
And it kind of blew the lid off things for me. You know, in Canada, I certainly had a cult hard rock following, but
Hmm.
you know, there was a lot of radio that wouldn't touch Metal Queen because it was just too heavy. It would freaked a lot of the media out because women weren't doing this, right?
Yeah.
Women didn't do this, but in Europe, people went crazy, and I was suddenly getting invited to come and play festivals and do things over there,
Sure.
um, and I guess again because that image was, you know, pre-Xena, so strong of an image, a woman, female warrior. That was, and that was sort of the intent of the song was all about was about power, female
Yeah.
empowerment, the matriarchy. Why can't women run the show, or why can't women at least be on, you know, equal footing to the men here? It was a very feminist message, um, and I think a lot of people felt empowered by that. So suddenly I was kind of like a bit of like this icon or legendary sort of thing in the hard rock world, you know, in abroad. And I don't know that I was ready for that. It was like, oh, so this is who I am now, you know.
Yeah.
And you know, I guess again because that image was so strong, I'm still getting asked questions about it 40 years later.
Yeah. I mean, that's good, I guess. I mean, it's
Yeah,
good
I
that you're
guess
not
so.
forgotten in that way.
You know,
And
myself and my co-writer George Bernhardt, we coined the phrase "metal queen," and now it's become sort of a ubiquitous part of hard rock culture. Where if a woman is great and she's hard rock, they go, "She's a metal queen," right? Like it's just
right.
it's a thing, right?
But yeah, and then of course it enabled you to keep going and making amazing records after that. Like I mean, because you didn't stop. Like I mean, I found some Canadian bands didn't get too much farther than their first couple of albums back in the 80s, but you kept pushing on, you kept coming out. Like I mean, you obviously had albums out before this one, but I'm this old. Um I have a tape cassette.
You have a cassette. That's cool.
Yeah, I remember this getting played a lot. Um, and you brought up the Much Music thing because I really like to center that. Like Much Music really did help break a lot of good Canadian artists, I think, back in their day. Like they really did play everything and anything if it was Canadian.
Oh, you know, when I accepted my Walk of Fame, that was one of the points that I really, really wanted to make because nobody else had brought it up.
Right.
And here we are, half of the hosts here tonight were involved with Much Music. You
Yeah.
know, or Jeannie Becker was involved in that whole city TV,
Yeah.
you know, fashion television. And it was a real TV and video TV era. There was Good Rockin' Tonight in Vancouver. You remember that show?
I totally
Um,
do. Yeah.
you know, and it's all started with City TV and what was the show?
Toronto rocks.
Toronto Rocks. That's right.
Yeah,
And
because you used to have to pay to watch
Katie
Much
Roberts
Music.
and right.
Um,
But my acceptance speech, I said, like, I feel incredibly privileged as a Canadian artist to have been part, to have like grown up in that video era and to have been an artist coming of age in that video television era
yeah.
because Much Music made Canadian stars. It really did. And I feel
Yeah.
very privileged to have been a part of that because it gave me the opportunity to have two mediums for my music, the, vinyl and cassette and CD,
Yeah.
but also mini movies, which were videos where you could go, this is what we're all about, world, and you sell imaging as well. And yeah, so I feel really, really privileged to have
Yeah,
been part.
I really like the way Much played all the Canadian artists with all the other world-known artists. Like, you'd see a Madonna video, and you'd see a Springsteen video, and then you'd see one of your videos and a Tom Cochrane video, and I bunched all you guys into the same superstardom as everybody they played on there because they played you guys so much. And I just thought it was great the way they promoted and pushed you guys. Because I thought you guys were right up on the same pedestal as everybody back then. Yeah, it was really cool. So anyway, I can't thank you enough for joining me. I really appreciate it. Um, Helping my little channel out. It's been a great lot of fun. I can't believe you said yes to come and talk to me. I wish you best of luck with your new album and your dates coming up. I'm hoping to get out to see one. Um, I think Moncton's the closest I can get.
Sure that you like, so you can actually listen to the whole album.
I
And there's a
will.
bunch of, and there's, I think, both videos and some promo photos that are high res and downloadable and usable for the show or whatever, if you want that as well. So, yeah,
Awesome. Awesome.
cool.
I can't wait to hear the rest of the album. Um, but yeah, yeah, you're playing in Moncton with Kim Mitchell and Streetheart, I believe.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to try and get over
My
and see
favorite
that.
people, Canadian people. I love them.
Oh, yeah, I'm gonna have to get over and see that. That might be a pretty awesome evening. It's not too far from here, but if you get a chance to come to PEI, please come.
So if we do, where should we play in PEI? What venues do you have over there?
We have the trail side. There's a Confed Center. Um, if you came over with some of your friends and made a like 3 or 4 band night of it, you could play the big hockey arena, I guess, here, the Eastlink Center.
Eastlink. What's the Confed Center?
Oh, that's like
Curious.
the theater, the big theater
Oh,
downtown.
okay.
Actually, Ian Thomas is here on Saturday.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
That's I haven't heard in a while. He's a great
yeah,
artist.
yeah.
Ian
He's
Thomas played my high school.
what's that?
I think it was Ian Thomas played my high school as well as Dax Webster when I was a kid,
And
which was
Rush too. I heard Rush played a lot of high schools back in the day too.
was a thing back in the 70s, right? So
Yeah,
yeah.
and
So
Max Webster. Speaking of Kim Mitchell, so
yes, they
they
did.
probably played a
That
lot
was my
too.
first real rock concert ever. So but hey,
Yeah.
Alan, it was lovely talking to you.
Yeah,
And
thanks for joining me. I wish you all the best with everything you're doing this summer and your album. I can't wait to hear it. Um, I'm sorry, I'm fanning out here. I'm just so excited that you came on to talk to me on my show.
well, it was an absolute pleasure talking to you. And I'm give my love to PEI. I miss it. I miss the island. I miss the people. And I hope we get a chance to get out there pretty soon. So,
That would be awesome. Thanks a lot, Lee.
okay, take care,
Take care.
Alan.
Okay.
Bye.